Now back to fishing it. So now you've got your minnows on here. You found the brush pile. And you found that brush pile with your grass. Throw a buoy out. But don't throw it where you're going to fish. If the wind's coming from this direction, throw it on the other side of that to where you can keep it out in front of you. Because the wind's going to constantly push you back. And that way you can constantly stay up on that brush pile. Then drop into it. And you can drop it right down to the bottom. You can bounce that sinker on the bottom and tell whether it's a hard surface or a soft surface. You can actually find break lines from rock to dirt with this. So now you got those 2 minnows down there flopping around in there, and I'm fishing the outside of it. On my graph, it says it's up about 3 foot. I bring it up to the top of it. I'll fish the top of it. Then, take those fish off, then I'm going to give you what every jig fisherman fears. Going right into it. And if I can possibly get this to do this, I'll hook that. Now, am I snagged? Watch this. I'm out of it. That weight, when you drop it, reverses the action of that, and you can pull it straight up. Do this slowly, because if you actually pull this up fast enough that that sinker wraps around one of those limbs, you're anchored. It's 50-pound test line. And this is also a Power Pro line. But this is one of the greatest things. Now, open water fishing. All crappie are not around brush piles, and sometimes after a storm or something that they kind of scatter. So you got to go searching for them. This is an excellent, excellent searching rod. I always know what depth I'm at, because another thing that I've done on this is I've marked it. I don't know how many people could see that black mark on that line. That's 10 foot. If I pull it on out there, you'll see another one out there at 15 foot. And if you look on here, there's another one on here, 20 foot. Now, how to use that is, and you can do this on your brush pile fishing too, is whenever you catch a fish off that brush pile, be sure to notice which hook it's on. Either it's on the top hook or the bottom hook. And Lord knows if you pull 2 up at the same time, look where that mark is and get right back down into that. And that's the thing to do, is to, what I say, up and down till you start catching 2. If you're all catching them all on the bottom hook, lower it down. If you catch them all on the top hook, bring it up. And do this several times till you start catching 2 at a time. And you will catch 2 at a time. When you get into that school, and if they're active, this is going to be a heyday for you. If you've only bought 2 dozen minnows, you're going to go back to the bait store. I had 3 kids out, and I went, and of course I pre-fished the lake, and it's out Webster Lake, back when they still had water in it. And within 4 hours, I knew, oh my gosh. So when we went into the bait store that morning, he says, how many dozen minnows you want? And I said, you don't sell them by the pound? And they go, no. And I says, 10 dozen. And they said, 10 dozen? I said, yeah. And I really don't want you to count them, because I don't think you can count that far. Just dip in there till we have a bunch of minnows. Well, they said, well, are you fishing all day? And I said, yeah. At noon, we was back for 10 more dozen. And they says, you've got to be kidding me. And they said, bring them up to us. Well, when we brought out that many crappie to see them, they're going, I can't believe this. And it was hot. But let me tell you, those crappies were around them brush piles, and they were going after the minnows. But this is a great rig for that. And even if you are a die-hard jig man, this is a way to find out where they're biting the best. Put those minnows down there, get that depth down. You're going to know where you're at because you got your line marked. And then put your jigs down to that. Now, I'm going to bring out the ultimate. I feel like that this is the crappie pole. It is a 9-foot pole. It is super light. I have a California 7 ball bearing reel in here. Sure, I've got the Power Pro line on here. I've got a 16th ounce jig on. This rod, and let me tell you right now, it's not a cheap rod. But all the action is at the end. It's called a fast tip rod. So whenever you hook something other than a crappie, you're going to be able to handle it because it's got lots and lots of backbone. And it's super light. I can fish double jigs with this. If I wanted to hook on that 50-pound rig, I could put one on this. The pole's going to bend a little more, but it'll work there. Maybe I'll go down to a half-ounce weight on it. But this is an all-round good crappie pole. I think the best one on the market. Now, what I'm going to show you is some tactics with this. Most people think that your long poles are made for vertical jigging, straight up and down. You can do this with this. Do I have longer poles? Up to 13 foot. Up to 13 foot. I have poles up there. This is a 9-foot. A 13-foot pole, until you get used to it, is a little bit difficult to handle. So, this is a great way to start. I don't know if anybody can see this on here, but I've got a line tied onto that. And that is what I call a depth control line. If I'm vertical jigging trees and stuff, I know where that bottom is, and I don't have to go straight down to the bottom and find out where it is. I know I can drop it in there to that. Oh yeah, they love me. And I'll be at that depth. But it's something that you can do with this. Now also too, on these eyes up there, you want large eyes, because I can't cast with this too. I'm going to show you something that's what you call controlled depth as you're coming back. You toss it out there, you bring that line up to the top, and you can reel it back with that line staying right there at that depth. You always know where you're at. Yeah, you can change that depth too. Because it's like bobber stop material, that's fine. I actually just use some of the line that I take off the reels. But once again, toss it out there, let it drop down to that, and just bring it back with that line at that. Yeah, I did cheat. I come up here and I know what depth this was, and I marked it off to that. Now I had several hits on that, but nobody took it. Now I'm going to really cheat. Remember those crappie nibbles I talked about? Now, of course, this worked really good yesterday. The crappie was just, except for that big old smallmouth, and he hit that crappie jig, and I thought, oh no, now what am I going to do? I don't know how to catch fish that big. But I'll slide one of these on. There are those sparkles. Now we'll just see if it makes a little difference. Are all them crappies still down at the other end? Let's see if they'll hit it. Because as that's in the water, that's actually causing a scent trail. As it comes by, oh, wow, something went for it. Or did it drop just bumping? Let me tell you, when that old smallmouth hit it yesterday, smell it, smell it, smell it. Little jig action, not much jig action. All right, the fishing game guys done me a trick. They fed them this morning. Yesterday they didn't feed them, and they were just really. We'll try it one more time.